Manchester United kicked off against Everton at Old Trafford in their fifth round clash.
The Busby Babes, legends in their time and ever since. They were the most talented group of English youngsters the country had ever seen. They played under legendary manager Matt Busby. In 1956, they won the Division I title, and again in 57. In 1958, they were looking to win it a third time in a row as they went 11 games unbeaten. Under Matt Busby, Manchester United were doing well in the European Cup too. They were in the quarterfinals and had beaten Red Star Belgrade 2-1 at home. They traveled to Yugoslavia to take on Red Star again. The game ended 3-3, enough to go on to the semi-finals. On their way back to Manchester, they had to make a stop in Munich to refuel their plane. It was on a snowy, icy day that they had to lift off and get back home. They tried twice, but failed. Afraid to fall behind schedule, they tried one last time. It was a massive mistake. The plane ended up crashing. Reports came out the day after saying many of the 44 people on the flight had died. After some time to assess the situation and take care of the survivors, the impact of the incident became clear. Headlines ran across the globe. The soccer world mourned the loss of what was the future of English soccer. Busby suffered fractured ribs, a punctured lung, and leg injuries. Doctors believed he wouldn't make it. So much so that he was read his last rites twice. When everything was done and dusted, the final death toll was 23. People across England wept as they attended the funerals of the fallen people. After recovering from his injuries, Busby retired to the small town of Interlaken, Switzerland. He wanted to be away from soccer for good.
Do you remember now, looking back to those days you spent in that Munich hospital, exactly how you felt?
Yes, I do remember. It was a terrible, terrible experience. And I remember my feelings when I did come to a bit of sanity and realized the whole situation. And the last thing I thought at the time would be that I'd ever be associated with football again. That was out. That was definitely out.
Until his wife said something that changed his life.
And I remember one day, the family, the daughter stayed with Jane, my wife, and it would probably be a few weeks when someone came in talking about football, and they'd known not to discuss anything at all at the time. And all of a sudden, Jane had said something about, look, this is your life, this is something you've got to do, you've got to face it. You got it in your mind, and these boys probably would want you to go back, and all on their lines, and it started a little seed again, and I got this little bit of urge saying to myself, all right, yes, I think I'll try and go back.
Matt Busby ended up returning to Manchester United, and over the next decade, won the FA Cup once and the league title twice. And in 1968, 10 years after the disaster, finally, for the first time in the team's history, Manchester United won the European Cup. The Munich air disaster left a scar on Manchester United that has never gone away. The disaster affected many then, and affects many in the present. Every year on the anniversary, fans, players, and managers come together at Old Trafford to pay their respects to those who've died in the disaster. The most famous of ways to pay respect is listening to a rendition of The Flowers of Manchester by Eric Winter.
One cold and bitter Thursday in Munich, Germany, 8 great football stalwarts conceded victory. 8 men will never play again who met destruction there. The flowers of English football, the flowers of Manchester. Matt Busby's boys were flying, returning from Belgrade. This great united family are masters of their trade. The pilot of the aircraft, the skipper, Captain Thane. 3 times they tried to take off, and twice turned back again.